Visual clutter is my nemesis paradox in my life, and maybe it is for you too. I feel like when my environment, whether that's working in an office or my home where I spend a lot of time now, when it is not organized or tidy or clutter-free, I struggle to be productive. I get distracted by all of the things that I want to do. Now, I think there's some legitimacy to this. There's been research done on sort of overwhelm in people's environments and how this does deter from you being able to focus. I think what happens more is that we tend to procrastinate, and we think about procrastination as being lazy or not taking responsibility, but really procrastination at its core is fear. You're procrastinating from doing a task because on some level you fear that task. So for me, I procrastinate on the things that I know will be challenging or I perceive to be challenging. It could be answering a certain email or making a dentist appointment or editing a video or something that I think is going to be hard for me. So my brain says, well, why don't you go wash the dishes? That's easy to do. You do that all the time. Or why don't you do some online shopping? Get a little like dopamine kick, or fold the laundry. And so I find that my environment is so tempting for me to put my attention on. And when I have a lot of visual clutter, obviously that is just tempting me even more. So today we're going to talk about how I deal with visual clutter and help you maybe reframe it a little bit so that it can work in your favor. You can have a decluttered home, which will give you all the benefits of being more organized and having less things. Things like saving you money, saving you time. If you're South African, putting you first. It stops you from overbuying things when you know what you have. You can find things. You're just using up less energy and attention on things that ultimately are not your end goal. And my end goal is to be more present with my kids, is to create work that I'm proud of. It's to keep myself healthy or whatever. It's not really to have like perfectly folded laundry. But having that kind of stuff and having a clean kitchen just helps me get in the zone, and it gives me less excuses to procrastinate on those things. And if you find that interesting, make sure you subscribe, give this video a thumbs up. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I hope you will stick around. Okay, so how do I handle visual clutter? I'm going to walk you through my process and some of the tips and tricks that I use to keep it under control. First and foremost, like many things in life, if not all of them, things that are worth doing require energy and attention. Now, I've just spent the first half of this video saying that visual clutter takes away your attention from the things that you want to do. But if you want to have a home that is visually appealing, that looks decluttered, that feels organized, you are going to have to put some work into it. It just doesn't need to be hours and hours. I know going into my day with 3 little kids that I'm going to have to reset throughout the day. But once your home is organized and decluttered and everything has a home, it doesn't take long to get rid of that clutter. I mean, if you timed yourself, honestly, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, a quick little tidy in the morning, maybe when they get home from school, where if you've been out, and then like before bed or after they've gone to sleep, that's all you're going to really need to do in order to maintain a home that is free of visual clutter. We also know that clutter begets clutter, which means that if you leave something on a open surface, a counter, or maybe a shelf that you like to keep kind of minimal, you know that it's going to just attract more clutter. That's just like the phenomenon that happens. It's like that first thing that you put on there, it gives everything else permission to kind of just like hang out there as well. So we know that by investing a little bit of time in decluttering our homes and resetting, we are likely to have a lot less clutter to deal with as the day goes on. It probably goes without saying that if you have less inventory in your home, if you are doing regular decluttering sessions in different areas of your home, you will have less stuff, less things to babysit and manage. And so by regularly kind of taking stock of what you have, going through things, even if it's just a small drawer, making sure that everything has a home and has earned its right to be there, you're going to be dealing with a lot, like naturally, you're going to be dealing with a lot less visual clutter than you had if you just unintentionally have things hanging around. If you're finding you're struggling with decluttering, I have an extensive playlist of decluttering videos that will give you motivation, tips, tricks, some kind of roadmap and organization as to how to approach your clutter. So I can have that linked down below, as well as the roadmap that I use to declutter every room of my house. I did this before we moved in January, and I went through each room and the times of year that I recommend you do it, because there are different times that are more appropriate to declutter certain things. And I also think, and I also say this a lot, that decluttering is not a sprint. It does take a long time. And if you've never decluttered your home, you may need several months to a year to go through each space. I don't want you to feel discouraged that now suddenly your home is not decluttered in a week, when it's taken you years and years and years to accumulate all of that stuff. Kind of like if you put on weight and now you suddenly want to lose like 50 pounds overnight. It's not going to happen in a healthy way, right? So you want to be very mindful and aware of the expectations you have around your clutter, to know that it's going to take time. So if you need help with that, check out the resources down below and the other videos I've done on this topic. Something else that I really think people need to take into consideration when they're looking at other people's homes, or just thinking about how they want their home to look. Like, there's a lot of hate on minimalists and people that have nothing on the shelves or on their counters, that maybe their homes look a bit sterile, or, you know, they don't have the warmth that other homes have with all the trinkets and all the little things. And at the end of the day, how much you want to display in your home is very personal, and sometimes it's up to circumstances, right? We lived in a very small apartment in New York, and we just did not have the display space that we have now in this house, for example. So we were never really able to just kind of display things without having a purpose. We would have to be very intentional about what we put on display, because yes, we could have stuck things all over the walls and crammed things into the shelves, but the visual clutter, I think, would have really stressed me out. Plus, at the time, I had 2 very small children, and just thinking of having to clean and like look after extra stuff, it was too much for me. In fact, the way I even got started on sort of a more minimalist kind of journey, the way I discovered Marie Kondo and decluttering, and it being a lifeline for me, because it really has been the only way I could feel in control in a very overwhelming situation of being like a new mom with multiple little kids, was decluttering my life and getting rid of the excess that I had accumulated, and just feeling like when I opened a cupboard or drawer or something, I could actually see what the heck was going on and not waste time like searching for things. I felt super overwhelmed by our stuff, and once I really went through our things and decided what didn't need to be there, it was much easier for me, and it helped me feel a lot more calm. So that being said, I was in a stage of life where I lived in a very small place. We lived in tight quarters, and I had 2 very young children. Now I still have a young child. I mean, my youngest one is 2, but I have older kids now, so it's a little bit different. Plus we moved to a house that has a lot more space. So here's a great example. We have carted these vinyl records with us since we immigrated to the US in 2009 or 10. And we have never had a place to display these records before. Like, we've never had a dedicated place where it would make sense to have them out. And I will show you some clips of where we've put them now in our new house, but it's taken like 20 years. And these records were very important to my husband. He's really into music and sort of music history and curation, so it's very important to him. He would have always kept these as his like special item, especially when you move countries. You have to be super selective about what you bring. But really, we have waited a very long time to be able to display these in a way that is very intentional to us and doesn't feel like we're cluttering up shelves for cluttering's sake. So just recognize what stage of life you are in. Plus, you know, if you have young children, you might not want to be putting valuable things out, or things that they may break or may hurt them. And so you really need to just be cognizant of what stage of life you're in and what space you're dealing with. And everybody is going to be a little different. And the level of visual clutter that could overwhelm you might not overwhelm me, and vice versa. So it's just really being honest with yourself and like what is really your truth in terms of clutter. So once you've considered all of this, think about the payoff to having less visual clutter. And obviously, if you have less visual clutter, you have less clutter. Like, there's less things there that are grabbing your attention. It makes counters easier to clean. It makes them have their purpose, like for what they were intended for, their work surfaces usually. It makes it a lot easier to just cook a meal or do crafts with your kids or lay out a project of some kind, because you're not having to clear off surfaces in order to use a countertop, right? Shelves, whilst they are not counters, I do believe that they can get easily cluttered and they're difficult to clean. Things accumulate dust. It can also just make things look messy. And so I think it's important to, give them some attention as well. I personally feel like when you create physical space in your environment, it allows you to be able to be more creative and open-minded mentally and emotionally. And this is kind of what I was talking about earlier in the video, that I struggled to be able to focus when my desk is really messy or my immediate environment is just like I'm tripping over things and it's grabbing my attention and it's screaming at me like, help me, I need attention, I need to be like cleaned or put away or wiped down or something like that. And I think once you focus on your visual clutter, you will be able to breathe a little easier, like maybe figuratively breathe a little bit easier, but maybe literally as well. So I really hope that this video has brought some attention to your environment, visual clutter, how it is impacting you. And if it's not making you feel at ease and calm, then it is time to address it. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for watching till the end. If you are here still, please consider subscribing, give this video a big like, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.
I'm gonna let the sun shine in today. I'm trying to make this darkness go away.